What is the FIFA Intercontinental Cup? What is exactly the FIFA Intercontinental Cup? The FIFA Intercontinental Cup is an annual club football tournament organized by FIFA, featuring the champions of the six continental federation: UEFA in Europe, CONMEBOL South America, AFC Asia, CAF Africa, CONCACAF North Central America and the Caribbean, and OFC the Oceania. And it serves as the previous FIFA Club World Cup format, which as it's now rebranded to now the new Club World Cup that just happened this summer in the United States, which Chelsea won the first edition, as that one will happen every 4 years. But question, what is the difference between the FIFA new Club World Cup and now as the addition of the Intercontinental Cup altogether? It serves, which was actually held annually, but with limited than FIFA recognizes as all old Club World Cup winners basically as Intercontinental champions. Is this so? Yeah, so FIFA basically did like this tournament. It started all the way in the 1960s between the first of all it was signed by UEFA and CONMEBOL, basically the winners between Europe and South America every year, back and forth, and like there's like a two-legged tie. And then it stopped in like 2004 when FIFA introduced the new FIFA like Club World Cup basically. It kind of like they did that in 2001 and then kind of died for a bit before it was restarted in like 2005. And new one, as there is now a different format between right now, and it is basically between 2005 and when was the last time was in 2023, which Manchester City won the last one. These are the clubs that won with that format, as I'm about to explain. So yeah, but yeah, but now since then, as it's trying to like do the whole world basically, all the confederation, there is another difference I'm gonna explain. But brief historic context. So what is the FIFA Intercontinental Cup? When did it started? The rise of the name of the tournament that started in the 1960 all the way towards 2004 was organized by UEFA and CONMEBOL, which means that there was an annual match between the European Champions League winners versus the South American Copa Libertadores winners. FIFA has already recognized those two winners as world champions in 2016, but however, now the new version that starting of last year, due to of the new Club World Cup that started earlier this year, which with 32 teams with that we're now seeing with the regular World Cup, having the group stage 32 teams, the round 16 bracket to the final itself, which we all know by now. But the old version was basically launched in the year 2000, but it started more in 2005 until 2023. There was basically so yeah, for 18 years they had this old format. There was basically an annual 7 teams of an event of their each confederation champion plus the host club. But now in the 2025 it expands massively. The FIFA into the cycle, which means that the new Club World Cup that just happened in the United States in July, which Chelsea won it, will happen every 4 years. Basically, a year before the World Cup, as we're all thinking right now. But what about the FIFA Intercontinental Cup? The FIFA Intercontinental Cup, that one will be every single year, every single December of each confederation, and there will only be 16, whoever wins it. How do you qualify between these two tournaments? Good question. So let's start with the FIFA Club World Cup. So how do you qualify? How do these 32 teams basically? So it's a tournament that happens. It's an annual tournament that now FIFA will organize every single 4 years, like I mentioned. With the FIFA to qualify for the FIFA Club World Cup, you either must win the Champions League in the last 4 years. Basically, the cycle begins like this new first cycle begins for everyone in the world. Whoever won the Champions League in the region or in the confederation between 2021 and 2024, as the new one starts right now between 2025 and 2028. But the old for yeah, so and plus you even get extra spots. Europe, for example, will have 12 spots, and that will apply as well next year. Between the four winners that won the Champions League, and also the top 8 clubs in the 4 year between 2021 and 2024 of the ranking federation. So yeah, for example, Barcelona did not qualify for the Club World Cup because they couldn't even win the Champions League, and unfortunately, they didn't even qualify through the rankings because unfortunately, due to them not doing well in the Champions League, besides the quarterfinal run, Atletico Madrid somehow qualified ahead of Barcelona due to them actually making Champions League further runs between 2021 and 2024. And I know that's unbelievable, but yeah, so Atletico Madrid, they've actually qualified ahead of Barcelona. And I know some people said this is unfair, but due to UEFA's regulation of this new format of this Club World Cup, basically. So because Atletico Madrid actually has done better in Europe in the last 4 years than Barcelona. As Barcelona were getting knocked out early in those years, and it was a hard time. And so we all know in 2021, for example, Chelsea won the Champions League. That's why they're in the Club World Cup, as they won the whole thing themselves. 2022, Real Madrid, it won. Manchester City in 2023. And then in 2024, Real Madrid won it again. So yeah, there was an extra spot of a European team getting the slot. But due to with these rankings, they could only have like 2 clubs from each country apparently. So they couldn't have Liverpool. They were about to add Seville, but due to them having like a small ranking or something, they didn't qualify. Milan was not there, unfortunately, for some reason, despite making the semifinals of the Champions League. So they put Inter and Juventus in there, as well PSG, even though they won the Champions League this year, which I will explain. But they've qualified through the rankings because they did at least make the semifinals, quarterfinals here and there, or were trying as well from France. So they decided to choose the highest level country, I guess. And they even added Benfica and Porto to Portugal's biggest clubs. And who else did they add? I might mention all of them. I could be wrong. And Bayern Munich and Dortmund, of course, the 2 German giants, as expected. So yeah, that's how these clubs qualify for the Club World Cup. Meanwhile, CONMEBOL South America, 6 teams can qualify. The 4 Pires Libertadores champions, which were all Brazilian. Last year, Botafogo won the Libertadores against Atlético Mineiro. Fluminense defeated Boca Juniors, won it. And then the year before that, Flamengo defeated Atlético Paranense. And then Palmeiras won against Flamengo, which I'm going to get to that in a bit as well. And that's how they've all qualified for the FIFA Club World Cup. And as well, the old versions that happened a few years as well. And back in 2022 and 2021 and 2023, And after that, River Plate and Boca Juniors, they invited the 2 Argentinian giants, did rankings from CONMEBOL, even though they haven't been doing good in these last few years themselves. They haven't even won a trophy for a while, I don't think so. River and Boca this season. It's not really sustainable, but yeah. They invited them than anyone else. It was just those 2. It was those giants from Brazil and South America. Corinthians, they were not here because they were not doing that well. So yeah, so that's South America. As for Asia, I think they put in like 4 slots. I could be wrong. You had the team from Japan, the team from Saudi Arabia, Al Ahly, and so on, basically. And as well, so Asia, Africa, and even the home region CONCACAF, each of them got 4. So Africa, you get the winners between the African Champions League between 21 and 24, which Al Ahly won a lot. So they invited Sundown and and 2 more African clubs, Estunian, and Wydad from Morocco. But as for CONCACAF, since the United States was going to be technically there was 5, but yeah, the last 4 won today in 2021 because they won the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Seattle won in 2022. 2023, there was something Leon won, but there was something controversial that happened. And last year, Pachuca. And then I know I don't have time to get into that why Leon got kicked out of the Club World Cup, which we already knew, and I know that was kind of stupid because they did one. And then since the Club World Cup was going to be hosted in the U.S., FIFA wanted Inter Miami in because of Lionel Messi, the money and all that. So of course, that is the FIFA Club World Cup, and 1 more spot for Oceania, which is Auckland City, which is probably Auckland City's last FIFA event as an amateur team, unless they join OFC. So we might see another team in the next year of the FIFA Intercontinental Cup and the next 4 years of the Club World Cup. But basically, yeah, I hope you get what I'm understanding. For qualify for the FIFA Club World Cup, you must either win the Champions League the last 4 years, or you have to get a good ranking. But they could only select 2 clubs per country, so you have to be real lucky. Unless the FIFA Club World Cup is hosted in your country, then it's possible you could get another club in. You couldn't make it 3, but yeah, only 2 it looks like at this new Club World Cup. When it comes to ranking, unless you win the Champions League and the same. But yeah, only 2 clubs would be lucky. So yeah,
So no Italian club won the Champions League, so Inter Juve gets in. The two biggest clubs of Italy, the two biggest clubs of Germany. But of course, I know missing Liverpool, United, Milan. I know. So yeah, including Barcelona was a huge one, huge miss. So yeah, so that's it. The FIFA Intercontinental Cup. The difference is this one is held every year. You have to win the Champions League that year basically to qualify and play it in December. So yeah, so we're gonna check how every single club qualified as of November 2025. So yeah, so let's get into it. So yeah, you have to literally win the Champions League in your confederation region in the same year basically, because it's every year basically. So yeah, so Real Madrid, they won the last year's edition, even though they were not able to maintain it because Arsenal knocked them out of the UCL. So yeah, so let's dive in how these teams qualified. Let's just get this out of the way. So you know what? Let's talk about Auckland City. So yeah, Auckland City, they basically won the championship of the kind of the OSC, even though some people said it maybe not the real one because it looks like Auckland City and New Zealand has to join a proper OSC league because I don't know why. I know I don't watch. I will admit I don't watch New Zealand football because not because I hate it, it's because it's like so hard to find, so it's like really hard to know. As we also saw their display in the Club World Cup, basically, and they're basically much of an amateur team because they're not a lot like stuff. But yeah, so they beat a team called from like New Guinea United, something like that. They won 2-0. They made it to the final basically. So basically, since they're slotted in last, not the FIFA, not even the FIFA Club World Cup, but the FIFA Intercontinental Cup, they had to start the first round because there's that round between them versus the African champions, El Pyramids, and they already got eliminated already. They lost 3-0, and yeah, so and guess what? And by El Pyramid, who would win the African Champions League, which I will explain in a bit, as well as the Asian Champions League. So yeah, so it was a playoff to play Al Ain of Saudi Arabia, and yeah, Auckland City is already out. So yeah, but apparently reports that Auckland City has to join a real professional league if they want to keep in the OFC of, I guess, of qualifying the FIFA events. So they have to do that. So we might not see Auckland City in a while in these tournaments. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's what I had to say.
All right, let me explain how did El Pyramid qualified for this year's FIFA Intercontinental Cup, how they won their African Champions League. So El Pyramid, they finished second in their group in Group D in the 16 club tournament, only behind ES Estudiantes or ES Tunis from Tunisia with the same number of points, but unfortunately, due to goal difference, they have less by like 2 goals. They had to sit behind second. So they had to play ASFAR from Morocco. They won the first leg at home 4-1. They lost 2-0 away from home, but they just did enough to qualify. Just enough to make it to the semifinals. And in the semifinals, they played Orlando Pirates away from home. They drew 0-0 away in South Africa. In the return fixture, in the return home second leg, they overturned that. They won 3-2. Enough for them to qualify for the final. And in the final, because there is a 2-legged tie, they had to play Sunsdown from South Africa. They drew 1-1 away from home, but they won at home in front of their home fans 2-1. And basically, I think this is their first African Champions League title. This is massive. They've overcome and they have beaten in the South African runners up basically, and they've won it. So I could be wrong. This might be the first one, but yeah, they won their African Champions League. That would send them to the FIFA Intercontinental Cup, but they won't. But they didn't get a straight ticket to the FIFA Club World Cup not until 2029. So that's how they qualified. How did Al Ain qualify for this FIFA Intercontinental Cup, even though they got knocked out and they lost their game to El Pyramid from Egypt nearby, basically? But how did they win? Basically, there's like 2 different groups of Champions League. Like there's like their own league phase, but it's divided by 2 groups, and they finished second, Group B, tying points with Al Ain, just behind goal difference, but 5 points ahead of Cristiano Ronaldo's Al Nassr. So in the round of 16, there's actually a 2-legged tie basically. They basically defeated Al Raid 5-1 on aggregate, 3-1 away from home in Qatar, and then at home 2-0. And then, since the Asian Champions League run difference compared to the rest of the world basically, once you're in the quarterfinals, it goes, they just get it done already. So basically, between the quarterfinals to the final, it will be in just exactly a week. So Al Ain played Birmingham United, winning 3-0, and then they had to go to one of their crosstown rivals, Al Ain, that I mentioned. I forgot to mention that they are one of their rivals in the Saudi Pro League, and they defeated them 3-1, knocking them out. Jorge Jesus managing at that time. This was basically his last game before he resigned, or he might have already resigned. But he lost the semifinal At home to them, they also picked up a red card. And then the AFC Champions League itself, they played.
Would be the final already a few days later, or a week after the quarterfinals. They get to host Kawasaki from Japan, or J League team, and they won 2-0, and basically they won the Asian Champions League. And basically, I could be wrong, but basically they were the first team to qualify for the FIFA Club World Cup 2029. They've been the first one, so that's how they made it. So yeah, so even though let's talk. So yeah, so that's how they made it. This is basically I think their first title. I could be wrong, or second. So yeah, so they won the African Champions League, and yeah, so since these two teams would already got but since they didn't go to the 2025 Club World Cup, they get to chill out and wait. And that's why since Al Pyramids defeated Auckland City, they actually upset it Al Ain 3. They beat them 3-1 in this round. And Ivan Toney, he converted the penalty kick, but they just did not. The Al Ain player named Al Pyramid, my bad, Feston Mayu scored a hat trick in this game, all from open play, scoring all 3 goals. And now and El Pyramid, this is massive. They lifted the first FIFA trophy. They won the FIFA African Asian Pacific Cup thanks to him. And they absolutely destroyed the Tigers at home as they're supposed to be called. But yeah, they defeated nearby Saudi Arabia. It wasn't that hard. So yeah, as they go to the the FIFA Challenger Cup, which is basically, this is huge for El Pyramids. They are technically 1 game away from playing PSG, and we haven't even got to them yet. So yeah, so this is massive. They're basically waiting for the winners of the Derbys do America, who still yet to play the Libertadores, which I'm going to explain in a bit. But this is huge, bro. If they win that, and possibly play PSG, this might be the greatest all history in Africa besides Morocco making the semifinals, because this is huge for them. But yeah, they literally outplayed them off the park, basically. So yeah, so there you go. That's how it's done. So let's go to, just get this out of the way. Let's talk about the champions of Europe, the one and only UEFA Champions League, as considered as the best competition in the world, even though FIFA wants to respond to FIFA Club World Cup, the new edition. So yeah, PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, after 55 years, they've finally done it. They finally won the UEFA Champions League for the first time in 55 years, and 14 years with the new Qatar ownership. It took them that long, but it didn't. But to be fair for PSG, it may took them a while, but PSG is actually kind of, by most standards, PSG is actually a young club. They're only 55 years old. They're younger than every single European giant, because every European giant probably took them like 60 years, 70 years. Like Barcelona took them like 80 years to win one since they existed, even though they had the old European Cup winners, the old, basically before the Champions League took in. But yeah, PSG, they've done it, and we all know the run. So PSG, after failing to, do it with Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, even with Sergio Ramos, how did they do this? They did this? PSG, at one point, we're about to be eliminating the Champions League once again, and they were about to be eliminated early, just like last year. And this is the new Champions League format, as they're no longer doing the group stage, as we all know, the new league phase that kicked on. How did they win the whole thing? So PSG, they started off with a snacky win against Girona, a late last-minute winner. It might have been an own goal, or apparently tapped it in, and it just went in, just in time to get the 3 points. But then PSG played Arsenal, a huge test, and they lost that game 2-0, which Rice scored, and Saka, and unfortunately, they drew 1-1 with PSV. That's starting to hit them now. They struggled against PSV at home. And then by match day 4, they lost to Atletico Madrid 2-1 at home, despite PSG kind of playing well, but just not being clinical. And losing this game at home at the last minute. They lost to them at home. And PSG, things started to rumble real bad. There was a few injuries here and there. Dembele was injured. And at one point, PSG was sitting like 20th in the table, 23rd. Or 25th, they were about to be eliminated. And then PSG had to play Bayern away. They lost that 1-0. Dembele got sent off. Kim and Jae winner. They lost to Bayern Munich away. And PSG were in deep trouble. That this project was a failure. But then, on December 10th, they did beat Salzburg 3-0 to give them life. At that time, they were still sitting like 20th or something. And then everyone takes their break. Your Christmas / New Year's, holidays basically. By January 20th, everyone was back. PSG had to play a crucial game against Man City. The game was 0-0 at halftime, and then PSG went 2-0 down to Man City. Erling Haaland scoring back-to-back, basically. And City were absolutely running them over, because City at that time also needed a win. And PSG, they were going to be the more trouble. But ever since they got that goal back for PSG. And then, so yeah, at that time, they only had 4 points. They had 3 straight losses coming the back of it, or 2 straight losses, basically. They only had 4 points. They were sitting like 30th at one point. And yeah, they were in big trouble. So they needed to win all their last 3 games, and which they did. They beat Stuttgart 4-1 away. No, Salzburg, my bad, first. 3-0 away. And then everyone gets a break. Christmas, New Year, holidays, and all that. Once we're back from the break, PSG had to play Man City, who were going on some weird form. And Man City were not doing pretty much well, honestly. Let's be honest. Man City, they were also in big trouble. They needed a win in the Champions League, because they were also going to get eliminated, even though Man City would not make it through the playoffs, which we all know. And the game was tight. 0-0 at the first half, no goals. PSG was a slightly better team, but there was no goals. And then PSG's defense fell back. They conceded 2 goals from Erling Haaland and Jack Grealish. They go 2-0 up, in the first half, in the first 8 minutes of the second half, and PSG were in big trouble. But it wouldn't take that long. Ousmane Dembele would pull one back, and then a few minutes later, PSG would tie the game 2-2. 4 quick goals in the first 15 minutes of cinema, and then there was a great ball that was played into I think Fabian Ruiz, and João Neves, and he puts it in, makes it 3-2, and PSG were holding on to this 3-2 lead, and then Gonzalez Ramos came off the bench, I think, and then scored at the score sheet at the last minute. PSG wins 4-2, and Man City are in big trouble as PSG starts to get more life. And then moving on to the following week, last day against Stuttgart, they won 4-1. So they qualified in 15th. So this new Champions League format is about something. But unfortunately, due to them finishing 15th, they would either have to play a good team, they either still have to play the top two after they play the playoffs. They played Brest, the same team in France, and they literally absolutely destroyed them 10-0. Don't need to explain about that. And this feels like a French league game, or friendly basically, but yeah, they literally did what's illegal in like more than 50 countries, bro. That's how bad it was. And PSG, they got slotted in, but they were either going to have to play PSG or Barcelona in the round of 16, unfortunately. So yeah, they're either going to play Liverpool first or Barcelona second. And we found out, and then PSG was selected, and they got selected with Liverpool. Yeah, so PSG Liverpool round of 16 kicks off. So PSG, they had a few weeks to prepare, and PSG lost 1-0 to Liverpool at home, despite being the better team, because they were missing chances and not being clinical. But Alisson, to be fair, had the game of his night. He turned up against PSG, saving all the shots. They even had a goal disallowed apparently for offside, some rear ruling, and unfortunately they lost just like Atletico Madrid. But I think this one is even worse because they were so much better and they still lost the game at home. However, Elliott would score the winner for Liverpool. Liverpool goes back at home with the 1-0 advantage. It was a game over, but it was an advantage. But people were saying that PSG were going to go out because they're going to fail again, and then PSG would score again. But then PSG in the second leg, they started off so hard that around the 12th minute, Dembele scores, puts them 1-0, and the game stayed like that for the rest of the game. Liverpool had a goal chopped off. They were missing chances. It was going back and forth, bust here and there, but none neither side could break each other down. So a bunch of extra time, nothing happened. We go straight to penalties. Donnarumma steps up and saves Liverpool's 2 penalties. But yeah, and no one believed it, but Liverpool got knocked out. Despite finishing first, Liverpool got knocked out in first place. PSG advanced 4-1 on penalties, with the draw 1-1 on aggregate, and they managed to go to the quarterfinals, canceling the clash between Liverpool and Villa of the Premier League in the quarterfinals. So this was one of the greatest upsets basically, as PSG basically got the full team and they finished 15th, and they literally absolutely killed Liverpool. So PSG played Villa. They went 1-0 down. They came back, won the game 3-1, and then the second leg, going to Villa Park in Birmingham, they went 2-0 up the first half. PSG were cruising. The game was over 5-1 in aggregate, so they decided to. But unfortunately, they were a little bit too lazy, or too, what's the word? Too a bit off the hook. But they advanced 5-4 in aggregate despite losing 3-2. But it was enough to them to make the semifinals, where they had to play Arsenal, who are still yet to win the trophy, who knocked out Real Madrid. That's why they're not going to maintain the Champions League or Intercontinental Cup, as they're having a bad season, as they knock out in the playoffs. But yeah, so Dembele, he puts it in, goes 1-0 up, early goal, 4 minutes. The game stays like that. Arsenal were trying to outplay, but they just couldn't find the back net. They had a goal disallowed. VAR checked it. It was offside. The game stayed 1-0. PSG going with the 1-0 advantage to back at home to Paris. And then the second leg comes in next week. PSG basically scored 2 more goals. The team unfortunately missed the penalty, I think. This could have been 3-0. But the game ends 2-1, 3-1 in aggregate. It doesn't matter. PSG's in the final, no matter how. So they have to play Inter Milan of Italy, who knocked out Barcelona in that semifinal, 7-6. As they knocked them out of the Champions League, and as Barcelona will go 10 straight years without winning the Champions League since, and that's why they haven't been in these FIFA events in the last 10 years, and they fumbled it once again. I don't know why. And PSG had to go to Munich, which they lost 1-0, and Inter actually knocked out Bayern Munich. They won 2-1 away from home, winning on aggregate 4-3 in the quarters. But yeah, but the day has come. PSG absolutely destroyed Inter Milan 5-0, and that includes Inter Milan's season. No trophies, going trophyless, losing everything. As PSG has finally done it. They finally beat the allegations. They finally, won the Champions League for the first time ever in their history. With the full squad they have, they've done it. And this is why they already have guaranteed the spots of the FIFA Intercontinental Cup final. So they're going to have to wait for the winner of the FIFA Challenger Cup, which will be on December 17th. I forgot to mention. So yeah, PSG will just chill as they're trying to do their campaign, go for a second Champions League, as they are sitting second in the table as they're recording this. So yeah, so they're going for it. So PSG, they've also guaranteed the Club World Cup 2029 spots. So they'll go again despite losing the finals to Chelsea, which PSG had an opportunity of making it 7 trophies. If they didn't lose that Club World Cup final to Chelsea, PSG had the opportunity to make it 7 trophies. But if they took that game seriously. So yeah, but that's it. That's how PSG won. Let's move on to my region where I live, CONCACAF, North America, Central America, and the Caribbean. The current champions, Cruz Azul. How did they win the CONCACAF Champions Cup? But CONCACAF, there's only like a few rounds. You start off from round 1. There's only like 27 teams. So you start off round 1, round of 16. You might guarantee the spot if you got the job. If you won, the league in your league at Mexico or MLS, for example, or you won something else like a Community Shield or Supporter Shield or So yeah, so let's get started. So Cruz Azul, they started off with round 1 with Mocha, a team from. The campaign started February 4th, starting with Real Hope from Haiti. The first leg was in Haiti. They won 2-0 away from home, and then in the return leg, they won 5-0 the following week. Easy win, 7-0 in aggregate. So they move on to the round of 16, and they played Seattle Sounders from the United States. Seattle Sounders, basically, as they start off their season. So basically, in the round of 16, they drew 0-0 away in Seattle. It was like back and forth. It was kind of a boring game, but in the returning leg, Cruz Azul won 4-1 at home, as they advanced to the quarterfinals, as they were going to play, as they knocked out Seattle, as they were about to play their biggest crosstown rivals, Club America, and especially that me personally, I watch a lot of Liga MX, so yeah, we got to see a Clásico Joven, or the Classic of the Young, between these two teams in the quarterfinals, which brought me very excited. We got a Mexico City derby, and Cruz Azul and America, we're going at it as America knocked out their another rivals, Chivas de Guadalajara, in the round of 16, 4-1 on aggregate. So yeah, so how did it begin? So the first game was at America's ground because the Estadio Azteca is not completed. It's at the what's it called? Greek stadium, which was at Cruz Azul's home, but then they had to move to Estadio Universitario, Puma's home, so they had to force to move them in because America, they just want to be home themselves. So yeah, so the game was entertaining. I did a watch along. It ended 0-0. It was an entertaining game, and then and then I watched the second leg. I didn't have time to do a stream. Cruz Azul went 1-0 up in the first 13-15 minutes, and then America equalized from Fidalgo. The game was going to be 1-1, and America were about to advance, as they were about to knock out two of their biggest rivals from the competition, until Araujo gets subbed in for America, and he did not mark the header from, what's his name? From either Nacho or as he gets it in, and Cruz Azul wins. They knocked out their biggest rivals, America, 2-1 on aggregate, enough to advance, as they almost won on away goals with a draw. So yeah, Cruz Azul would later play another Mexican club team as they knocked out America. So they played Tigres. The game still 1-1, fair result. The game was still 1-1 with the result at Universitario at their ground, and then the second leg, the game was tight. It was 0-0. Cruz Azul win, but even though they were winning on away goals, so they could take a 0-0 draw, Cruz Azul wins a penalty around 80th minute. I think Sepulveda took the penalty and won Cruz Azul the game, advancing 2-1 on aggregate, even though they were about to advance on away goals. And Cruz Azul would host the final to Vancouver Whitecaps, and we waited for a few months. Playoffs here, there they got America, they got revenge, they lost finals to Toluca and the story. So yeah, they had to play Vancouver Whitecaps, the same team that knocked out Lionel Messi's Inter Miami out of the competition, 5-1 on aggregate, 2-0 at home, 3-1 at their ground. So yeah, but Cruz Azul, since they got knocked down Liguilla from America, as they got revenge from there, they had to wait. They've been given 2 weeks, and basically what they did to the Whitecaps is basically the same result as PSG did against Inter, 5-0, giving them the same treatment, and now they guarantee the spot for the Derby to America, but they have to wait for another 6 months because they'll play the Copa Libertadores winners. So yeah, so let me explain about that. So that's how Cruz Azul won. They won their overall 7th title. Basically, they immediately after PSG won the first Champions League, and yeah, their title for biggest rivals America. When it comes to CONCACAF Champions Cup titles, they're tied. So let's move on. So as of recording this, November 26th, Wednesday, 2025, the Copa Libertadores winner has not been champion just yet. But we know the final is actually in a few days as we're recording this. So I'm trying to record this. I'm trying to get this video out before Saturday. The Libertadores final will be November 29, 2025, between Palmeiras, Flamengo, two giants of Brazil, as they're building up a new rivalry. These two teams, basically, the Libertadores is like the same group, is like the same format, the old Champions League format. 32 teams and of group stages, knockout rounds, no playoff basically there. So yeah, so it stays. So yeah, so we have not known. I will be. Even though I will be doing a preview about this later today, as I'm hopeful I'm gonna get this done by today, Friday, hopefully, but yeah, so Flamengo, they finished second and they made it to the final. They had to play Internacional. They won 3-0 as they're fighting the league title against Palmeiras, as they had the opportunity to do so on Tuesday, but they drew off Atletico Mineiro as they pre this game on Saturday. Enter the game on Saturday. They play. They suffocate. They struggled. They suffered in Argentina, going to penalty shootout against Estudiantes 2-2 on aggregate, but they won. They won on pens. They did enough, and then they beat Racing Club 1-0, and they had to play 0-0 as the Plata got sent off. And yeah, so that's how Flamengo made it to the final. Palmeiras, and then yeah, the Club World Cup. Palmeiras won every single of their games, complete good group stage game, complete good group stage campaign. They won every single game, and then they had to play Universitario, who will be hosting the Libertadores final. But they had to play that football club in the round of 16, and they won 4-0 convincingly, even though Universitario, the refs were kind of against them, you could say. 0-0 draw with the B team because there was no need to beat to go full force. So they won 4-0. They played River Plate from Argentina. They won 2-1 away from home, 5-2, 3-1 at home, 5-2 on aggregate as they move on to the semifinals, as they didn't play a proper team until LD Quito, which gave them the first loss after convincing wins. They lost 3-0. And then Palmeiras did the miracle comeback, won 4-0, as we set up this Brazilian final. I will be previewing this, but whoever wins this Libertadores title, the trophy, the game, will be playing Cruz Azul in the Derby to America. And after whoever wins this, so there's a contest, the whole FIFA Intercontinental Cup, as I try and make this video short, but I hope I explained. So whoever wins the Derby to America on December 10th, will be playing the FIFA Challenger Cup on December 13th, on Saturday, and then on Wednesday the 17th, whoever wins that will play PSG in the FIFA Intercontinental Cup a week after they played Bilbao in the Champions League. So yeah, so there you go. Um, so there you go. So I did my best to explain what is the FIFA Intercontinental Cup. Yeah, I know, and the media doesn't like. A lot of people ain't really hyped up because they're saying it's another. I mean, and at the end of the day, it's a trophy to win anyway. At the end of the day, so of course people got real seriously, because it probably means something. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I did my best to explain it. So yeah, this format will work every year. So yeah, so one more thing before I end this video. These are the clubs that qualify for the Club World Cup 2029. Whoever won the Champions League, we all know the 5 clubs. PSG, France, Cruz Azul, Mexico. We'll find out Saturday, Flamengo or Palmeiras, as I'm going to drop a preview of that very soon. And Al Pyramid and Al Ain for Egypt and Saudi Arabia respectively. So yeah, so we'll find out. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I try to sum it up everything as I can. So yeah, because it looks like no one wants to do a video, so I'll step in. So big ups to everyone. Smash like, comment, subscribe. We might do the Darvish to America watch along in the FIFA Intercontinental Cup for sure. But first let me finish some. And we will also do the Libertadores watch along on Saturday. So take care, people. Hope you enjoy. I did my best. Smash